The last call before nightfall.
It was a brisk December afternoon in Sheboygan County, Wisconsin. The air was sharp, tinged with the earthy scent of wet marshes, and the sun cast long, golden shadows across the dense reeds. DNR Warden Smith, a seasoned protector of the county's wildlands, had just returned from a routine patrol when a call crackled over his radio. 2 hunters were stranded deep in the marshes, their boat immobilized for hours. The hunters, eager for one last outing before the season's end, had underestimated the terrain. Their small aluminum boat, weighed down with gear, had drifted into a shallow, mucky patch far from the main water channel. With no way to move and the marsh water chilling them to the bone, they'd called for help just as the sun began its slow descent toward the horizon. Warden Smith knew the stakes. Once night fell, the marsh would transform into an icy labyrinth. Temperatures would plummet, and visibility would vanish. Every minute counted. He arrived at the boat launch and scanned the horizon. The marsh stretched out in all directions, a deceptive maze of channels and stagnant pools. The hunter's location was miles away, deep in the reeds. Smith prepped his flat-bottomed boat, grabbing extra ropes, a flashlight, and a small survival kit. He pushed off into the water, his boat slicing through the stillness. The marsh seemed alive with whispers, the rustling of reeds, the distant calls of waterfowl, and the occasional crack of ice forming along the edges of the water. Smith navigated with precision, following the faint coordinates the hunters had provided. Time dragged on, the sun slipping lower and lower. Finally, after nearly an hour, he spotted the glint of aluminum in the distance. The hunter's boat sat half-sunk in the marsh, tangled in thick reeds. The men inside waved frantically. They were pale, shivering, and exhausted. Smith could see the relief wash over them when they realized help had arrived. He assessed the situation quickly. Their boat was stuck fast, the mud gripping it like a vice. Pulling it free would require careful maneuvering. Smith tied a sturdy rope to their boat, securing it to his own. With measured effort, he began pulling them toward the deeper water channel. The rescue was painstaking. Smith had to navigate around submerged logs and dense patches of reeds while ensuring their boat didn't tip or take on more water. All the while, the marsh seemed to close in around them, the shadows growing longer and darker. Finally, just as the last traces of daylight began to fade, Smith reached the main channel. The hunter's boat floated freely now, the current tugging gently at it. Smith guided them toward the launch, his flashlight cutting through the encroaching darkness. When they reached safety, the hunters climbed onto the shore, shaky but uninjured. They thanked Warden Smith repeatedly, their voices trembling with gratitude. Smith gave them a quick once-over, ensuring they were stable before turning to secure their boat. By the time Smith packed up and headed home, the marsh was shrouded in complete darkness. The day was over, but its weight lingered. He knew the outcome could have been very different. In the quiet of the night, Smith reflected on the rescue. It wasn't just about saving lives, it was about respecting the wilderness, understanding its dangers, and acting swiftly when things went wrong. Out there in the marsh, surrounded by reeds and shadows, Warden Smith had done what he always did. He brought people back to safety, even when the wild tried to hold them.